Today I'm going to teach you how to reload efficiently and quickly. Are you ready? Stand by. Welcome back to the Armory Life. I'm David from the Humble Marksman channel here on YouTube. One of the game mechanics that you have to master if you want to score highly in any pistol competition is going to be reloading the pistol and getting it back into action. And for those of you who just found this video, this is actually in a series, so if you want to go back and start with the very first video on grip and recoil management, please start there because it's difficult to develop skill if your foundation is a bit off. So start with that video and then work up to this one. Now, much like our draw video, we talked about speed comes from efficiency. So just like the draw, we need to make sure that our technique is as efficient as possible. There is no wasted motion from flicking the magazine out of the magwell. We're just going to allow gravity to drop the magazine, efficiently bring the next magazine up, build our grip, and reacquire the target. Now, there are going to be effectively two types of reloads. There is going to be a speed load, which is accomplished with the slide forward, and then there's going to be the emergency reload, which is more common in IDPA when the gun has run dry. Now, in a video about reloading, you're probably going to want some base pads. Aluminum base pads are nicer than plastic ones because they don't get chewed up and potentially wedge into the frame of the gun. The aluminum ones are going to add a little bit of weight, help you fall free, and these are from Springer Precision, who generously helped produce this video, so check them out if you need base pads for your magazines. Now, first we're going to talk about speed loads in a slide forward context. For a slide forward reload, you cannot load your magazines to the stated capacity. These are my USPSA Carry Optics magazines, and they actually hold 24 rounds. I cannot keep 24 rounds in these if I want the magazine to reliably lock into the pistol without me just slamming it as hard as I can. Because what ends up happening if you do have your magazines loaded to capacity is the mag catch isn't going to engage and you're going to fire one shot and the magazine's going to drop out of the grip of the gun. So the magazines on your belt need to be downloaded by one round from their capacity to make sure that with a slide forward reload, they're going to lock in easily. That's going to be a concern in Carry Optics and USPSA, but it's not going to be a problem in USPSA production or any of the IDPA divisions. Now, we're going to take a look at the reload in a few steps and really drill down into the details because it helps to practice something you're having problems with in isolation. Do the part you're bad at, and you'll see the results a lot faster than if you just go through the entire motion over and over again. Focus on the part you're having the most problems with, and you can get more results for the time you're investing in your practice. So the first part of the reload is going to be presenting to the target. I'm on the target, and immediately I realize I need to reload, so I'm going to take my finger off the trigger and index my finger on the slide like so. I'm going to turn the gun and it simultaneously drop my support hand down onto my magazine and put my thumb onto the mag release button. I'm going to dump the magazine and retrieve a new magazine, bring it up, seat the mag, rebuild grip, and back on target. So the first piece that we're going to be examining is simply just turning the gun, dumping the magazine, and getting down onto the magazine. So the first thing we're going to do is understand where the gun needs to be for us to complete a fast reload. And the way that you figure out where you need to hold the gun is to just very rapidly go down to your belt and bring up a new magazine. So right there is where I brought my magazine, and that's going to be where I want to put the magwell of the gun so I can bring the magazine into the gun rapidly. And the benefit of keeping it here around chin height right there is I can see everything going on downrange while I look at my magwell. Do look the magazine into your gun. So I'm looking at my magwell. I can stab the magazine into the gun. I can then bring it forward and reacquire sights on the target. The benefits of keeping the gun at about chin height are many. I can see into the magwell first and foremost, and it helps if I can see where I'm trying to stab the magazine. Next is the amount of distance from right here to right here where I'm shooting again is very, very short. And as we discussed, speed comes from efficiency. So the most efficient way to reload is going to be holding it around chin height. However, we're all different and we have different biomechanics. Some people are going to want to drop the gun lower to around their sternum level to complete the reload down low and then bring the gun back up. A reload at sternum level is going to have a hard time being as fast at the chin level because you're bringing the gun down and bringing it back up versus just the extra bit of movement from here to here. So there's twice as much movement of the gun vertically by dropping it down. But more important than speed is going to be consistency. If you can smoke a 1 second reload up here about 10% of the time, but you can crush a 1-2 reload down at your sternum level about 90% of the time, then you need to be reloading at sternum level and not at chin level. So initially when you're practicing this, you need to have an empty magazine because you need to be testing to make sure the place you're holding the gun at when you hit the mag button is going to allow the magazine to drop free. Once you kind of figure that bit out, you don't necessarily need to drop the magazine every single time. So the first bit is just going to be dumping the magazine and getting the gun ready to receive the magazine with the hand on the magazine in the holster. Now, how you retrieve the magazine from the pouch is important as well. You're going to want to index your front finger along the mag body so that when you bring the magazine out of your mag pouch, your fingertip is at the edge, and that's because we're effectively threading a needle, and it's a lot easier to find the mag well if you're leading with your index finger rather than just holding it at the base and just trying to cram it into the mag well. So it's really important that as you bring the magazine up to your gun that you have your finger basically on the tip of your first bullet in the magazine, and just think about it as trying to touch this knuckle of your pinky when you're reloading. So if you just try and quickly touch this knuckle of your pinky, you'll usually hit the mag well more or less. So my first drill is going to be pretty straightforward. I'm going to have an empty magazine in the gun. Gun is going to be unloaded, and we're not actually going to focus on loading the gun at first. We're going to focus on dumping the magazine and beginning to retrieve the next magazine. So the first drill is very simple. You're just going to take your finger off the trigger, put it up on the slide, tilt the gun, and dump the magazine. And at the same time, your support hand is going to go to your belt with the finger indexed on the tip of the bullet. Now, it's worth noting that when you dump the mag, which is right here, you're not complete. You need to tilt the gun again so that you can see into the mag well. I can see the back tip of my mag well. I can see what I'm aiming at. It makes it a lot easier to seat the magazine quickly. Now, it's important that you move both hands the same speed. So you're gonna wanna dump the magazine and get the gun twisted and in line with the next magazine, but simultaneously, you're gonna be bringing your next magazine up. You want both hands to move at the same speed, but it is going to be a bit of a race to get the gun to the correct position so that you can put ammunition into it. So once your mag retrieval game is pretty good and you're consistently getting your finger on the tip of the bullet, you can do what's called a Birkett load, and that's going to look like this at half speed. So I'm coming off the trigger onto the slide, I'm dumping my magazine, and I'm bringing the next magazine up to the tip of the mag well. You can see that my finger is hitting the frame right there, and at this point it's okay to get your finger out of the way and start to shove it in. Do not take this finger off the tip of the bullet too rapidly, because what ends up happening is you end up trying to shove magazines at your gun like this, and that's not a very good reload. So once you have a pretty sporty Birkett load, you can then do the second half of the reload, which is going to be starting with the magazine at the tip of the mag well like so, and you're just going to seat the mag and bring it back up to target. So that's all it is. It's just going like that, and you're going to transition your eyes from looking at the mag well to looking at the target. Now, don't look at the target, look at a specific point on the target and allow your body's kinesthetics to point the gun at it for you. It's amazing if you use a hard target focus, how accurate you can be specifically at speed. And yes, that includes you iron-sighted shooters. So because the Birkett load is effectively 2 reps, you can set a shot timer to be like a 1-second Birkett. You're going to want to work that down to about a 0.6, both on the bringing the magazine to the gun and then bringing the gun back to target and getting onto the trigger. And when you do the Birkett drill, don't actually break the shot in dry fire. Just bring your finger to the trigger and see an acceptable sight picture. That's all you need to do. You don't even have to pull the trigger. So a full rep of a Birkett, you can do 1 and 1. So first bit is going to be right there. And then I'm going to start looking at the magazine in the gun and bring it up and look at my target. Now, remember in the first video when I told you stance was important for dynamic reloads, it absolutely is going to become a thing because you're going to waste a lot of time if you're standing fully erect to sink down and then push off. So if I have a good aggressive stance, I can just lift up my outside foot and immediately start moving laterally. And that's efficient when you're starting to run around field courses. Taking our Birkett loads, which is really all we need to do for exiting a position and doing a reload, we're going to start presented to the target. We're going to assume our good shooter stance, and at a beep, we're going to react and we're going to lift up our outside leg, bring the magazine up to the gun and take a step. And the goal is to have kind of a nothing but net. You want the tip of the magazine in the mag funnel without hitting the frame. It's very difficult to achieve but acceptable is just rebounding off the frame a little bit, but still getting the magazine in. And you can do this a couple ways. You can do it a 1-step reload, which is important, a 2-step reload, and about a 3-step reload. Kind of a tip that helps speed you up is if you focus on taking short, choppy steps when you exit the position, your hands will generally move faster. If you're a real tall guy and you try and take big, loping steps, your hands will slow down. So while you can maybe burn down a reload static, you'll see when you go and try and be dynamic, you're not real satisfied with your hand speed because it looks like it takes forever. So focus on your footwork and try and move all your limbs at the same speed. If you want to move your hands fast, you have to move your feet fast, which creates kind of these little choppy steps out of position. So that's reloading in a nutshell, guys. This is something that is not an easy skill. You really do need to put in the time practicing, not at the range doing reloads. But every once in a while, it's good to go to the range and test yourself to make sure that the technique in the sight picture that you're accepting in dry fire is going to work for you in live fire, because it's really easy to fool ourselves into thinking that that good enough sight picture in dry fire is indeed good enough. A lot of times it's not. So get really honest with the sight pictures you're accepting in your dry fire practice. And don't neglect the power of video when you're analyzing your own technique. Put it on the slow-mo and look at just how much of your shoulders you're moving. Is there too much wiggling in the gun? Figure out what you're doing wrong and then program yourself how to do it correctly. Video is a super useful tool when you're trying to polish up a technique. And unfortunately, this is a skill that you may have to spend like weeks, if not a year, to really get down to your subconscious level. A good goal is to try and have about a 1.5 shot-to-shot time from an open 10-yard target, firing a shot, completing a reload, and firing another aimed shot on that target. 1.5 seconds is a good goal time. 1.2, 1.25 is a great time that you can get Grandmaster classifiers if you can reload in about 1.25 to 1.5 seconds. Let me know in the comments below if there are other videos and practical shooting skills that you'd like to see. I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care, guys.